What in the world is agape love? What does agape love look like? This week we're exploring what might be the most visible of all the characteristics of agape love. Now, this is quite a claim because remember what we've had on the list: kindness rather than cruelty, gifting rather than living for abundance, suffering for another, authenticity, uh, preaching what one practices, inclusion rather than exclusion, listening before proclaiming, anchored in the divine instead of in oneself. They're all visible. However, for me, thankfulness is the most visible of all. Yeah, we're defining the characteristics of agape love according to the life and teachings of Jesus. Remember the night before his death, Jesus gathered with close friends a meal of thanksgiving that the church 2,000 years later celebrate as the Eucharist. The sacrament of Holy Communion is the Eucharist. And what is the meaning of the word Eucharist? Thankfulness. In the ritual for the Holy Communion in the United Methodist Church, the liturgy is entitled The Great Thanksgiving, the Eucharist, being thankful. Remember in the life of Jesus when the kids were just being kids, irritating the religious piety of those who were wanting to listen to Jesus. What was the response of Jesus? Hey, let the children come to me. Thankful for being irritated by the behavior of children. Remember when Jesus was with friends and followers teaching? He was interrupted by strangers who had the nerve to create an opening in that thatched roof where Jesus and his friends were gathered, lifted a sick friend down through the opening of the roof, seeking Jesus' healing presence for a stranger. Was Jesus irritated because of that interruption? No. He was thankful for being interrupted, and he responded to human need. Yes, just read the stories of Jesus. And according to Jesus, a characteristic of agape love is thankfulness. In every life situation, thankfulness is possible for a follower of Jesus. I remember when Karen and I, without prior notice, dropped in for worship with an Indian congregation a couple hours east of Oklahoma City. That congregation was something else. They were full of joy. In the worship service, they celebrated sobriety birthdays of sober alcoholics. The children's time, I found out later, every Sunday was a story about a member of the congregation, and the pastor brought flowers for the children to take to that person who was the subject of the story that morning. The basic uh, characteristic of the worship experience that morning was thanksgiving. Not thankful for the harvest or anything they possessed, but thankful for the divine, sacrificial, and empathetic love they experienced as followers of Jesus with each other. Thanksgiving just oozed out all over that congregation. I remember also when Karen and I spent a couple of days visiting the ravages left in the path of the devastating tornado, which at that time exceeded any rating scale of any measured tornado. It destroyed lives, destroyed possessions, destroyed hope for so many individuals and communities. Because of a prior relationship, I was asked to lead the funeral experience of a 3-year-old, ripped from her mother's arms as the mother was running for shelter carrying her child. The wind tossed the child's body against a tree and she was instantly killed. I can't drive to Ponca City, not far from Winfield, without the memory of that day of the funeral of that child. Uh, the family was a member of the Ponca tribe. The reason it's so etched in my memory was the characteristic of agape love that dominated that experience. Thankfulness reigned that day. Thankfulness for the joy of conceiving. Thankfulness for the blessings of birth. Thankfulness for the hugs, smiles, dirty diapers, and the cries for attention from an infant. The cries which was so cherished. Yes, and thankful for the tribe who promised never to let the family alone in their journey of grief and separation. Thankfulness just oozed out the day of that funeral. Everything was about being thankful. You know, the Apostle Paul, who proclaimed that without agape love, even faith and hope can be a noisy gong and an irritating, clanging cymbal, he wrote to the followers of Jesus in the region of Ephesus, "In everything give thanks. In every life situation, give thanks." Nothing is out of the orbit of the characteristic of thanksgiving for Jesus and for the followers of Jesus. You know, I challenge myself and all of us to cherish the gift of thankfulness. You know, thankfulness is the characteristic of agape love which enables a follower of Jesus to possess that simple smile of greeting another, be they neighbor, friend, stranger, or enemy. Thankfulness enables the greeting of a simple smile. You see, thankfulness is the characteristic of agape love which enables a follower of Jesus to be an optimist, a hopeful optimist, always on the lookout for markings of divine love in every human relationship or experience. And when that marking of divine love is discovered, to name it and claim it. It enables the follower of Jesus to have that simple smile, to have that hope of optimism. And thankfulness is a characteristic of agape love, which enables a follower of Jesus, regardless of the life experience, to be a blessing rather than a burden to family, clan, or the community of faith. You know the difference between one who is thankful in everything, according to Paul, give thanks, for indeed, regardless of the trauma or trouble, in everything, one can give thanks. Yes, thankfulness, in my opinion, is the most visible characteristic of agape love, because thankfulness just oozes out all over the experience or the person of faith. Often I refer to the hymnist to capture the heart of what I'm talking about in verse. And I'd just like to remind us of a familiar hymn. And the verse is, "Now thank we all our God with heart and hands and voices, whom wondrous things has done, in whom this world rejoices, who from our mother's arms has blessed us on our way with countless gifts of agape, of love, and still is ours today." That's what Paul meant when he said, "In everything give thanks." That was the life of Jesus. In everything give thanks. And that's the characteristic of agape love, which can occur in followers of Jesus as they smile, are a blessing, not a burden, and are full of hope as the optimists in our midst. For your thought and conversation, take time to describe a friend in faith in whose life you see always, in every circumstance, a smile, being aware of divine love in every experience, and always being a blessing rather than a burden. And finally, what are your experiences of thankfulness emerging from the ashes of difficulties and trauma? Thank you for being a part of our journey.